Hi, Gaye DeRusso with the Majestic rider. So today I'm on Trace. This is the Missouri Fox Trotter that's in training, and he's going home soon, so I figured I'd show you his gaits. So his first gait is the flat walk, and that's what we're doing right now. I'd like him to go a little bit faster, but he's still getting into work mode, so we'll get there. So their flat walk can be different speeds depending on the horse, but it's usually 3 to 5 miles per hour. It can be less, or it can be also faster, so it can be slower or it can be faster depending on the horse and the horse's stride and all of that. So how do you know when you're at the flat walk? Well, when you're on the flat walk and you're on a fox trotter, you get a little bit of back and forth motion, but usually not as much motion as you get with the walking horses because they don't have as big a stride usually. That's not always. Some of the fox trotters are mixed with walking horses and they can have a much bigger stride. So it depends on the horse, but normally they're not bred to have a big, huge stride. As they're doing the flat walk, he's not paying much attention right now, you'll see that their head goes up and down. So that's one sign that you're doing it. Another one is a little back and forth motion in the saddle. So you'll see me kind of moving towards the horn and then towards the back of the saddle, which is called the cantle. Okay? Now, as you're doing your flat walk, you can press with both calves to squeeze the horse to get him to go, and then I just keep a light pressure on him. If you're trying to lengthen that stride, then sometimes alternating your legs, pushing with your left leg and then your right leg and then your left leg and then your right leg will help them lengthen that stride a little bit. And just know when you're starting out, like I just got on him and I'm starting out, that it takes a little bit of time for them to get focused, especially the geldings can take a little bit longer than the mares. The mares usually are more business-like. So if you start seeing an up and down motion, like a soft bounce in the saddle while I'm riding him, then that means he's getting a little bit more on the trotty side and going towards a fox trot. Some of the fox trotters will have something called a fox walk, and that has a little bounce in the saddle too, but it's usually a little bit slower. So I like to do all their preparation work at a flat walk. And then as they get better, then I'll do it also at their fox trot. But in the beginning, I'm trying to make the fox trot and whatever other gait I'm going to do with them easier, because the flat walk should be pretty easy for you to get, so you can do harder work at it. So now he's the one who kept bringing his head down a little too low. He still brings it down, but not as bad. And he's the one who wanted to put his bit over the tongue, so we have a nice wide port in this bit. And I did try a shorter shank on him, but then he kept trying to eat the shank. So we stuck with the longer shank, and we just ride with very light pressure on him. So I'm just going around and doing our basic movements. We're working on our leg yield when we get down this side. And we're just making sure that he's supple and that he gets to the bit. He's got his body relaxed, and he'll move sideways off my leg or he'll move forward off my leg. Okay? Those are all the basics we're trying to get them to do, and to bend and carry us very balanced. So as we go faster and his head gets too low, then he's going to go more towards the trotty side, because when their head's down and their back's round, that makes them more trotty. If you pick their head up and invert their back a little bit, it makes them go more towards the pace. So with him, since he's on the trotty side, if he starts going out of gait or not doing it well, you're going to see me try to get him to pick his head up a little bit. Okay, so now he's moving out a little bit better for his flat walk. He was a little bit slow in the beginning. But otherwise, he's doing pretty good. And you always want to stop them when they're doing the right thing, not the wrong thing. So let's go the other way. So we're doing our turn on the forehand. And he's doing it pretty well. You'll see he gave just a little pull right at the end, and I just held. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our flat walk. So you'll always see me doing lots of basic dressage movements, lots of circles, serpentines, leg yield, shoulder in, all those things, because it helps to get the horse supple. And the more you can control that horse's body parts, the more options you have to help them with their gait, but also for control when you're riding them and they're spooking or doing something you don't like. If I can move his shoulders or hindquarters, it gives me many more options. So again, you'll see his head going up and down. You'll see me moving back and forth in the saddle, but not very much. Now, some foxtrotters will foxtrot, and some foxtrotters will do a running walk instead, because they're a little bit more lateral. Either one is fine, depending on what you like better. And then also depend if you're showing the horse, of course you want it to do the foxtrot if you're going in classes against foxtrotters. But otherwise, as a trail horse, it really doesn't matter. Just whatever's comfortable for you and sure-footed for your trail. And sometimes they'll do a lot. They'll do a flat walk, they'll do a running walk, they'll do a foxtrot, and then they'll do a saddle gait and a rack. So there's lots of things you can get your horse to do, depending on their training and how well they were bred and all of that. But when they're doing this flat walk, you'll see the hind leg come up. So let's say the right hind and then the right front, then the left hind and the left front. And it's a 4-beat gait, which means their feet hit the ground separately. And the clearer the 4 beats, in other words, the more separation, like 1, 2, 3, 4, the smoother it'll be. If your legs are not very separated, say the horse is pacey, you might get a more 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so it'll look a little bit different, and it might not be as smooth. And with those horses, the more leg yielding and circles and lateral work that you do with them, serpentines, and that's all on my website, written out how to do it, the smoother that horse will get. Okay? So Trace came out and he was very fresh because he had the weekend off, so he had a couple days off. So I ran him around pretty good, and I lunged him for about 5 minutes over the poles, making sure that he had all that extra energy out. And I almost did it too well because now I'm really having to push him. But with young horses, you don't want them bucking or spooking or doing bad things. So it's better to wear them out a little too much than wear them out too little. So you always want to do it till you're safe enough. And I'd rather have to push one than be pulling on it the whole time to stay in control. So there, his head got a little bit low. Now, as soon as I stop riding, you'll see he stops. And that's because we taught him when we push him, he goes. When we take our legs off, he's supposed to stop. In the beginning, you can look back at his videos that if I gave him too long of a rest, he gave a big hissy fit. But that's when he first came in and didn't have his work ethic, because he had some time off. He had it like a year off. So now watch when I ask him to go. So he used to throw his head back up, do all this stuff, and that was just because he hadn't been working. He was testing to see if he had to work. So now he's fine, but again, if he gets a whole bunch of time off, that's probably going to start again. This horse is nice, but he can be a little bit on the lazier side, so he's going to try to get out of work if he can. All right, so let's go back up to our flat walk. So until you understand your horse's gait really well, or the horse doesn't have it down, it's always good to go through their gaits instead of just trying to go really fast and up to their saddle gait or their foxtrot. So first we bring him up to his flat walk, make sure he's doing that pretty well, and now we're going to foxtrot. So as I foxtrot, I just add both legs, that's his cue, and I'm just squeezing with my calves. And now I'm just going to go straight with him to make it easy. So all I'm telling him is, hey, all you got to do is foxtrot around this arena like 4 or 5 times, and we're good. We won't do any of that other work right now. So you're trying to make the gaiting the easiest part of the arena work, so it's easier for them to do. So you'll see at times, you might not see me do much, but I'll pick my hands up a little bit to try to get his head up. So I'd like his head kind of level with the horn, not too much lower than it. Because he's not pacey. Again, he's trotty. But the pacey ones, I usually keep it level with the horn or below. Now he's spooked. Okay. So you'll see with the foxtrot, which is usually anywhere from 5 to 9 miles per hour, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the talent of that horse and its age and all of that. You know, some are just born fast and some are born slow, and some will get fast if you just keep conditioning them. But he's got a nice foxtrot, and it does go faster, but this is where we're starting in the arena. And so you want a soft bounce in the saddle. You don't want a real hard bounce. You want it comfortable, something you can trail ride with. If you're showing, that's a little bit different. I'm not a show person, so a lot of times they go a little faster and you'll see more bounce. It's up to you what you want as trail riders. And we ride for long periods of time. We want pretty smooth gaits. So now I like where his head is right there. Now it's starting to go a little lower. And what do you see? A little bit more bounce in the saddle, because he's going a little bit more towards the trot. So I like it more up here. But everybody's different what they like. So just remember, their head is attached to their neck, which is attached to their back. So where you put that head affects their neck and the back, and that's what affects their gait. And then also if they're nervous or relaxed, also affects their neck and back, which affects their gait. So if they're nervous, they usually tense up and go more towards a pace. If they're very relaxed or lazy and they're kind of trotty, they'll put that head down, then they'll get trottier. So the foxtrot is a very nice gait. It's very stable because it's diagonal, so that means you got like the right front and the left hind, and the left front and the right hind. And that's a little bit more stable if you're doing very difficult terrain and you want to move out, versus you're doing a lateral gait, like a running walk. Might not be as stable. Just depends on the horse and all of that. Okay, so he's going pretty good, and I know he's tired today because I kind of ran him around, so we're going to stop. Good job. So I'm just going to give him a minute, not very long, and then we're going to go off the other direction. Okay? But you want to stop when they're doing the right thing and before they get too tired. If you're gaiting around and they were gaiting pretty well and all of a sudden they start pacing or they start trotting all the time or they start doing both of those things, the horse is telling you, hey, I'm tired. I'm trying to do something else to keep going for you, but that's the trot or the pace. So what you want to realize is the horse is tired. Just get the gait one more time, just a couple of steps, and then quit. Okay? So then you want to stop on a good note. You don't want them to think, well, we're doing our turn on the forehand. You don't want them to think the way to get done with work is to trot or pace, and that's what most people do by accident, because the horse starts doing and they go, oh, jeez, and they just stop, and the horse goes, wow, when I trot and pace, she stops riding me, so I guess I'll do that more. So it's all about your timing. So we didn't give him a very long break, and you see, he didn't give me a fit anymore. Isn't that nice? But that's what happens when you train them and working them all the time. If I was riding them once a week, it'd still be fighting with me. You got to give them a good work ethic by giving them work and working them at least 3 to 5 days a week if you want to see improvement. So if you're working on their gait, it's a little slow, so you'll see I keep pushing him and tapping him. That's better. So you'll see that soft bounce up and down, so we're doing our foxtrot. But if you want to give them a good work ethic and you want to see improvements in your gait, you can't just ride once a week. It's got to be like school. It's got to be at least 3 days. 5 is better, because then you're progressively training. The first day is always kind of reminding them what they did the week before. Second day is doing it a little bit better, and then maybe the third day is starting something a little bit new. 4th and 5th day are practicing that. Then they get 2 days off, and then you start again. But if you ride them once a week, what happens is that first day you're just kind of getting their work ethic back. You know, they might be fighting you like, I didn't have to work for 5 days. So you finally convince them, and by the end of that ride, you're like, oh, now he's doing pretty good. Then you don't ride him a whole week, and it starts over again the following week. You're like, why does he always go back to crap? Because you're not working him enough. So he's not learning, and he's not retaining it. So it's just like school, it's just like work. How many days do we go to school? 5 days a week. How many days do we go to work? Usually 5 days a week. So, if you're trying to make improvements, you got to find that time to work with your horse or put him in training and have somebody else get it done for you. So he's a little slow, so I'm going to tap, tap, tap with my stick. Now what we've been trying to do next is get a saddle gait, and he sometimes is in between. He'll do like a foxtrot, and sometimes he'll do a little bit of a saddle gait, just depending on the footing and where we're riding. On the road, he can do a saddle gait and a rack really well. But on here, because it's deeper footing, it won't be as fast, because again, the footing's going to make him more trotty. So I feel him getting tired. He's been keeping his head up pretty good for me. And so I'm going to stop riding in about 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. And I'm just going to let him stop and take a break again. We gave him a break, and now we're going to try and do saddle gait, or at least a faster foxtrot. And he feels tired, so I know I'm only probably going to get a couple of times around. But see, at least he just walked off. He didn't fight me or anything. He's just like, okay. But I try to make it fair. If they're tired, I won't work them as hard or as long. If they're energetic, I will. But I'm trying to make this not miserable for them. It should be somewhat fun. All right. So let's start going faster, Trace. So we're going to go up to our foxtrot. So both legs squeeze. I use my calf, and with him, if he's not going, then I do use my spur. Then you'll see me using my stick. Okay. So now I'm going to ask him to go faster. As I do, since he's trotty, I'm going to kind of sit back more in a chair seat and try to keep his head up. Now, when I did this the first time with him, and you can look back at his playlist and his video, he threw a hissy fit. He was throwing his head all around. He's like, I can't go faster. And I was like, yes, you can. I've seen you do it. So now you'll see there's not much motion in the saddle. And sometimes he's a little bit more trotty, so it's like a faster foxtrot, like there. If we can get his head up, sometimes we can get him a little bit more lateral. Well, I think I've probably got one more time around before he runs out of energy. That's a little bit better. Now see, that's a little trotty, so I'm going to pick his head up. That's better. It's a little bouncy, so we brought his head up. Now we're going to stop. Good boy. Okay, so now we're going to go this direction. We're going to try and keep his head up and keep kind of sitting back on my seat pocket. See that little bounce? So now we're going more towards the foxtrot, so we're going to try and speed it up more. Bring its head up so there's not as much bounce. So it's much harder in here. I know that your arena affects you, so if you have a trotty horse, everything's going to be harder in the arena and easier out on that hard ground. So it's not bad. It's just not as smooth and not as good as it is out there. So now we're kind of back to a faster foxtrot. There I go with my weird noises. There we go. So we're going to quit in a second because it's taken all my energy to keep him going, and he's usually not that tired. So I know I ran him around just a little bit too much. And so I'm not going to get much more out of him. So we're just going to quit and be done while we're on a good note. So overall, he did good. You kind of seen his progression. And just know, deep footing is good for pacey horses, but for trotty horses, it makes them a little bit more trottier. And so it makes the gaits harder, and you usually have to sit back and bring their head up more. Where with a pacey horse, you could bring its head down in this footing with help. But the footing out there would be better for a trotty horse, or less deep footing in here. But overall, you've kind of seen his progression and how fox trotters move. They're lovely horses. Everybody has their preference, which kind of gaited breed they like the best. But I think they're all fantastic. They're all fun. They have different gaits they were bred for, but a lot of them can do similar gaits. So it's just how you ride them, what you do with them. And, you know, keep it up, keep working, trying to get that nice smooth gait, but realize you do have to put the work in, and you do have to put the days in a row for that horse to learn. So say you ride 3 days a week and you're like, well, I'll do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Every day you're kind of catching up. It's better to ride Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 3 days in a row, the horse will learn faster and get it quicker, even though it'll have 4 days off. But if you ride Monday, he rides Monday, it gets Tuesday off, then you ride Wednesday, he's like, I forgot what we did Monday. Then he figures out what he did Monday, and then you ride around, he's pretty good, and then he gets Thursday off, and then he goes on Friday, I forgot what we did on Wednesday. And you're just constantly just going back and forth. It's different if the horse is trained, but if you're in the middle of training them and getting them to learn things, it's much better to do days in a row. All right. What do you think? What do you think, buddy? Said I'm tired.